Resto Shaman in the Terra Nova Guild on the iTrade server. With 11 million people around the world, I play a game called World of Warcraft, or WoW as we like to refer to it. And I'm here to tell you why you should care about my old-action fantasy life. Now, this is I asked this week to serve on the Obama administration's presidential transition team. This generated some media attention. My parents were thrilled to see me in the New York Post, but slightly miffed that it was as an April government policy and playing World of Warcraft have more in common than you might think. So first of all, what is World of Warcraft? Massively multiplayer online game. You create a character, you go into the world, you interact both with the content that's created by the computer, but also with other players. There are dozens and dozens of things you can do in Warcraft, ranging from killing monsters and raiding dungeons, to fishing and cooking, or even collecting rare pets. And it's not easy. It's a challenge to succeed in World of Warcraft. It takes 300 hours or so to get to the top level. The average player plays about 20 hours per week. Slackers like me play way less than that. But it's an incredible challenge, and it's more than just getting to the top level. Here's one example, the fishing achievement. One element of it is to catch a rare fish that comes up once every 5,000 to 10,000 times you cast your fishing pole, and you should see the one that got away. But it's more than just the time investment. It requires skill and strategies to succeed in Warcraft. Good players engage in what's called theory crafting, quantitatively optimizing their character and trying to keep on top of changes in the game because the game is evolving as well. Now, this sounds like a colossal waste of time, right? Well, how about how diseases spread? Epidemiologists study Warcraft to understand diseases. About 4 years ago, there was a disease it was in Warcraft, and there was a bug. It spread out of control, destroying entire cities. Fortunately, in World of Warcraft, you can resurrect a dead character. But researchers and scientists found that it looked just like what happens when a real disease spreads in the real world. Warcraft is a treasure trove for researchers. It's got a thriving virtual economy, it's got social interactions and communities, and it's got built-in data recognition. Other virtual worlds like Second Life, which have more user-generated content creation, are even more powerful for researchers as tools to study. All right, but enough of this science. I'm a business school professor. Show me the money. Warcraft, the game itself, generates almost $2 billion a year in revenue. The game industry as a whole is bigger than Hollywood box office revenues today and growing fast. Like it or not, this is the entertainment industry of the 21st century. And that's just the games itself. There are at least 400,000, potentially as many as 1 million people in China whose primary livelihood is playing World of Warcraft 10 hours a day. The companies they work for take the gold and other assets that they generate and turn around and sell them to rich Westerners. It's a huge gray market, so-called real money trading. Generates approximately $10 billion a year in revenue worldwide. And that's just the real money trading outside of the games. In Asia, companies that make virtual worlds and social networks generate about $5 billion a year creating virtual assets that they then sell to people that are playing the games. And this is coming to Facebook and all the major social networks here in the US. Now you might say, well, it's not real. Well, but what about all these financial instruments that Wall Street's made? The global economy in the last year, that's not real either. And if you're the person who caught that rare fish that comes up once every 5,000 times, how would you feel if someone stole it or if the game developers took it away? There are actually been courts in many jurisdictions that have recognized virtual assets as real property. All right, but what's it like to play? It's an incredibly social experience. People think that most players of these games are pimply-faced teenage boys, but in fact, this is my guild. We have academics, and we have journalists, we have parents, people from all walks of life. Yeah, we're still all antisocial. Game and also chat and develop real-world relationships. This is an example of what it's like to play the game in a dungeon. It's also a social experience. There are 3 primary roles. The tank holds the attention of the monster, the DPS, damage per second, try to kill it, and the most important character is the healer who keeps everyone alive. That's, of course, what I do. In fact, marketing and management scholars started to study World of Warcraft as an example of what 21st century work is going to look like. It requires teamwork, cross-functional virtual teams, dynamic leadership, and an ability to work in a very fast-moving environment. It turns out it looks a lot like where companies are going today. It also requires intense customization. This is a typical raid interface in World of Warcraft. So as a healer here in this kind of environment, I've got to keep track of 10 to 25 people's health bars, where I am, where the monster is, what the health of the monster is, certain spells and when they're expiring. It's an incredibly complex, fast-moving environment. It requires what the military calls situational awareness, understanding in real time multiple information flows and different levels of context. That's why the Pentagon is doing extensive research using Warcraft and other virtual worlds, and why Wall Street traders, when they see these kinds of interfaces in these games, they say it looks exactly like the trading terminals that they use on Wall Street, the same kind of environment. As a technologist, I'm also interested in Warcraft for what it says about the future of computing, the move to so-called cloud environments. The world in Warcraft is distributed across thousands of servers in massive data centers, just like the architecture of Google. Computing is becoming a utility, and it's an open platform that anything can plug into. So there was a story last week in Time magazine about Twitter on the front page about how most of the innovation comes from users. Same thing with Warcraft. There are hundreds and hundreds of user-created plugins to do that customization, and also user-created information sites that tell people how to play the game more effectively. Now, there's a danger, though, in giving people that amount of control and giving them the ability to do things. Let's say you were sitting in Starbucks and sipping your coffee, and this big dragon came through and started killing everyone in sight. That dragon is not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be in a dungeon halfway around the world, but someone figured out how to pull it into the major capital city where it's just rampaging and killing everyone. It's unpredictable what people do. Final point, life is short. So you can be like this guy, Arthas the Lich King, and go murder your father and raise an army of zombie minions to go destroy the world. Or you can have fun, love contingency, meet people, try and find friends, and try and build something greater than yourself. That's why I play Warcraft, that's why I work for the government, that's how I try to live my life. Thanks very much.